Hello everyone, my name is Neil. If you haven't stumbled on my channel, it's mostly about liver cirrhosis and also about chronic illness. I have liver cirrhosis and I also have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, as well as other things that go with them. I want to talk today about trying to stay positive throughout all this. You know, it's not easy to do because we take on so much and you can't always see it. You know, from the outside looking at somebody from the outside, you know, you might not even be able to tell they're sick, but they're fighting a battle every single day. And if you're watching this video, you probably know somebody, or maybe you have some kind of liver disease and you're looking for some help through that. I can say that the main thing that has gotten me through is staying active, continue pushing, and staying as positive as I can. I'm also stubborn, extremely stubborn. So there's that too. But when I say being positive, what do I mean? What is there to be positive about? Well, I mean, that's the thing. Maybe everything's bleak and not very good, but you got to find something to believe in. It doesn't matter what that thing is. It can be something that you want to do. Maybe go somewhere, maybe something you want to try doing, or whatever that might be. It could be as simple as writing a letter, reading a book, maybe drawing, writing poems. I tend to write poems myself. So I find that those help to get a lot of those emotions and feelings out, and that works for me. But there's many, many other ways of doing this. But the main thing is too, I would definitely recommend having somebody to talk to. I have a therapist that I use about once a week, and we just talk about, you know, what's going on in life and so on and so forth. Because the more we pile in and the more we take on top of us and just not say anything, the heavier that burden gets. You know, I mean, you start off with an empty backpack, and before you know it, there's a couple tons of bricks in there, and you're dragging it across that line, trying to get to where you're going. But if you hold on to all that baggage, it's going to be more difficult to get where you're going. So some things we have to learn to accept, and some things we might have to learn that we can't do anymore. But there's always the chance of finding new things. So I definitely want to talk about that, a little more about that today too. Also, I was going to talk about what it's like being in the hospital as well. But real quick, before I go any further, I want to thank everybody who has followed along in this channel. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. I'd be greatly appreciative. Also, I want to thank everybody that's helped me out with my GoFundMe. I was able to get a vehicle. That vehicle needs a little work now, but we're getting there. So I want to thank everybody for helping me out. And I'm greatly appreciative. So, and that'll be linked into the About section on the page here. But the main thing is I want you to get something out of this video. And back to the positivity of things. You know, I find myself, there's times that I can't sleep at night. My mind's going a million miles a minute. And I'm sure that some of you can identify with that and know what that feels like. And, you know, it won't shut up. It just keeps going. And before you know it, you're 3 or 4 nights without sleeping and you're just frustrated. I hate those nights. But we got to find ways to adjust. And that might be easier said than done. I find when that happens to me, I try to get some naps during the day. I used to have a real problem with I used to always get up by like 7 o'clock in the morning, go to bed at a regular time as if I was still doing normal activities, but I'm not. So I had to let that go, that feeling of normalcy, and realize that I have these diseases, and I may not be able to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I got to sleep in today. Maybe I need a nap in the afternoon. All those things are there for you to do if you're not feeling good. And you should definitely do those things. The main thing is try not to push yourself further than what you can go. A little bit of push is a good thing. I mean, I like to walk. A lot of times, if the weather's not good, I'll just go to the local Walmart and walk around the Walmart a couple times. I live in a small town, so there's not a whole lot except for Walmart and a Tractor Supply. That's about it. But I'll go to the Walmart and I'll walk around a couple times and get some exercise, or I might take a walk outside and get a couple miles in. I don't always feel up to it, but I try to do it as much as I can, because I do believe that a body in motion tends to stay in motion. And I'm sure you've heard that saying. I compare it to like a river. A river has a hard time being stopped, especially a big river that's flowing. And if you look at both sides of that river, it's going to be teeming with life. There's going to be things growing, it's filled with fish. There's life in there. It's a life-giving river. The other option is be more like a pond. And if anyone's ever seen a pond compared to a river, you know the difference I'm talking about. Pond, the water gets stagnant, they get that algae on top of it and stuff like that. Some ponds have nasty smells to them. I definitely recommend trying to stay that river. And that is my goal. My goal is to continue being that river. Whatever life may take me, I try to push a little further and step outside of the box a little bit. And like I said, I will tell you this over and over again, it's not always easy. And some people have an easier time than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people have a harder time than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all about doing these things based on what you can handle. But one of the worst things to do is to sit for multiple days in a depression haze, because that's not going to help you feel any better. That's why I recommend getting out and doing something. Break that monotony. Whether that's just walking around the block, whatever that might be, like I do, go to the Walmart, walk around or something. I try to find something to do. And I have those days where I'm feeling like, what's the point? Been fighting constantly and, having a bad day, and these things are on my mind. But I have to stop and count the blessings I have. I'm still here. And in 2022, they gave me 90 days to live. And here it is 3 years later, and I'm still pushing. And my liver numbers are way better than they were back then. Which is great. And that goes back to that whole thing of some of us don't look sick by looking at us. But between the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and liver disease, I'm always in some kind of pain. And that's mostly from the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It just gives you widespread pain. But I find that if I don't do anything and if I sit down, then it's kind of like a rusty hinge. And it kind of gets harder to move. So that's why I definitely try to stay active for that reason as well. And finding little things to do. I enjoy reptiles. I have a couple and I take care of them, and I'll take them out and, go outside with them and sit down and, spend some time with them, which I enjoy doing. I might build some Legos or something, or, just something to pass the time other than just movies and TVs, which, let's face it, we all probably get too much of that. But, keep pushing. That's the thing. Be stubborn, keep going. Don't take no for an answer. You're stronger than that. And sometimes it doesn't feel like we are, but you are. There is strength in the people that have these diseases. I think that the people that deal with chronic illness are some of the strongest people I know, because they fight every day and they know what it's like to have to fight. And it can be lonely. It can be very lonely, especially if you don't know anybody locally. I mean, most of us, I don't know anyone locally that has either one of the two disorders that I have. Other than what I meet online here with all the comments. And by the way, I love the comments. I love how all of you get into conversations on the page and talk about your situations and all that stuff. I really enjoy that. I want to thank you for that. That's a great little community, and it's wonderful. But also I want to talk about what it's like being hospitalized with liver disease. You may get hospitalized for liver disease for a couple different reasons. When I was first diagnosed, I had a lot of fluid built up in my right lung and in my stomach. And they have to do procedures called paracentesis and thoracentesis. Thoracentesis pulls the fluid out of your lung. Basically, it's a long needle that they insert in, and then they remove the needle so just the hose is there, and they pull the excess fluid. The fluid's not actually in your lung. It's between the lung and the outer membrane of the lung. So it's actually what happens when it fills, it like squishes that, like imagine your lung's a balloon, and it squishes it and it pushes it up so it can't get air in it. I remember the first time I had it, and they pulled 2.5 liters off my right lung, which is a lot. That's a 2-liter bottle and another half of one. That's, 3 liters pretty much. And I remember when it first filled with fluid, I almost passed out because my blood pressure dropped so fast because there was all that excess room in there. And all of a sudden the blood flow had this all new area that I had to fill up. And then the paracentesis are for the stomach. Actually, I find the thoracentesis, the one for the lung, less painful than the other one for the stomach. The one for the lung, always got a chance of puncturing the lung as well. And they let you know that before they get started, but I've never had anyone puncture a lung. They've always gone good for me. So I don't think that happens too often. They just have to, give that warning. But the paracentesis is they put the needle into your stomach and they get in there inside your abdomen and they find those pockets of fluid and they pull that out as well. They do leave some of the fluid behind. You can't pull 100% out because your body needs those fluids. And if you strip all that out, it can actually make you sicker. So, they always leave some in there. And then usually they'll do a culture. One of the problems I was having is the cultures were coming back gram-positive, which is like a staph infection. So I wound up back there. Eventually, I wound up on a chest tube. They put a tube in my lung to collect fluid, and I had that thing in for about 45 days. That's when they gave me 90 days to live. Boy, were they wrong. Well, my turning point was when I decided that I don't want to be stuck in the hospital anymore. And I decided that, I need exercise. So I called the nurse in and I said, grab your gait belt. Can we go for a walk? Gait belt is something they wrap around you and hold on to in case you fall so they can hold you so you don't fall down. And that's what we did. We just started walking. And I did a little more each day and I started getting my energy back a little at a time. And then finally I was able to go home. But I had to build my strength back up. And there's been more than one time that I've lost all my strength. Last year in June and this year in May, both times in the hospital, I was completely malnourished because of my issue with swallowing food. It would get stuck in the esophagus and I couldn't get it in the stomach, so I was barely eating. And then when I got to the hospital, on Tuesday morning, and it wasn't until the following Monday that they put the tube in. I actually go in this Thursday for surgery. They're going to put a tube in my stomach, but they have to do mine surgically as opposed to, normally they do it through the EDG, through the scope that they put down into your stomach. They normally do it that way. But because I have so many varices, and if you know much about liver disease, you've probably heard of varices. They're veins that are overgrown and are way too big and they shouldn't be there. It's from the pressure building up in your portal vein that goes to your liver. It's called portal hypertension. And then that actually stops the fluid and then all of a sudden it starts going places that it shouldn't be. Kind of like being in a backup on a highway somewhere and then everybody starts driving through the cornfields to get around. You start getting all these paths and making these large varices where they're not supposed to be, and if they get punctured, you could bleed out. I did have one bleed on me. I wanted throwing up blood once. That was fun. Definitely 10 out of 10, do not recommend. It's pretty gross. So, but I had that time. I've had 8 varices binded, but I haven't had any for past couple of years, which is good. So, but hospitals can also be very lonely too, and they can just be mundane, just monotonous. especially staring out. I used to always sit by the window. That's one thing. I hated staying in the bed, so I'd go sit by the window so that I was near the light coming in. It was better than sitting in the bed, And also, if you ask your nurses and stuff about walking, as long as you're healthy enough to walk, they'll let you walk. They want you to. It's actually good for you to do it. So there's that, And I remember I've talked to, friends through my phone different times throughout it. Also, I have a device that I watch videos on, and I bring that with me. I always have one thing I always have is a overnight bag. And the reason why it just has, an extra pair of shorts, a t-shirt, underwear, socks, that kind of stuff. And then, my laptop for watching videos and stuff like that. And then I'll lock it up in my car. And if I wind up getting admitted, then, a lot of times the nurse will go out and grab it for you and you've got all your stuff there. So I generally don't bring it in with me. Some hospitals have they have like security and everything where you got to go through an x-ray machine, or not an x-ray machine, one of those metal detectors and all that stuff, and they got to go through your bag. So some hospitals have that, so that's why I generally wait until I know that I'm being admitted before I get the bag. It just makes things a little bit easier, and that way I'm not holding on to that while they're doing tests too. So but that's always a good idea to do as well. But try to find the best of it that you can get. And it's hard. I know it's hard. I've been hospitalized a lot. And it's not just from this. And when I was a kid, I was hospitalized for asthma for a whole week in the spring and a whole week in the fall. Every year from the age of 10 till I was 20. So being in the hospital was never anything new to me. I've been having to go to the hospital my whole life pretty much. So now, my liver cirrhosis tends to be a little bit different than some of the other ones. It's not alcohol related. I did drink for 2 years, so I didn't do any favors, of course. But the liver was already failing. They don't have an exact reason. The only thing that I found, I do know that liver disease runs in my family. It's real common, which can be the case as well. I mean, just underdeveloped livers, liver not being as great, that kind of thing. That can all be inherited from a parent or what have you. But just keep pushing through and do what you got to do to get by. But anyway, this video was mostly just about trying to stay positive and, trying to stay positive in the hospital. Do the best you can. And nobody expects you to be, Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky 24/7. So don't worry about that. Oh, last thing. Be nice to your nurses. You never know when you'll need them. Nurses do a lot of work and they put up with a lot. So be as nice as possible to your nurses. That is the main thing there. That's important. But anyway, once again, I want to thank everybody for their kindness and help on my GoFundMe and everything like that. And I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope that it helped. I hope that some of these things will do you good in the future. And I just hope that all of you stay blessed and wonderful things come your way. Everybody have a wonderful day, wonderful evening. Take care.